Today I am very excited about this one. This is a great. I'm Danielle Del Sol. You are the brand new executive director of the Preservation Resource Center, or the PRC.
That's right.
So you're brand new on the job.
Brand new, 2.5 months.
2.5 months,
Yeah.
and there's only been the PRC's been around for a long time, and there's been very few executive directors.
That's
so
right.
this is a huge deal.
That's right. We were founded in 1974, and our former executive director was there for 37 years. So,
Yeah, so
there have
like-
been many more presidents than
Than-
directors at PRC since 1974.
Yeah, so that's huge. I mean,
Yeah.
that's so now you're kind of like taking the helm of this thing, and you were because then they you do the you were doing the magazine Preservation
Yes,
in
I was
Print.
editor of Preservation in Print for 4 years. I'd been the executive or the deputy editor of that for 3 years prior. So I've been with the PRC since 2011.
Okay.
So I've been there a while.
So you must have impressed some people.
I guess.
You know, you clearly had to, because we met a couple of years ago, and we'll get into that in a minute. But you know, because when I was like, "Whoa, they voted Danielle executive director,"
Yeah.
I said, "Man, she must." And the first thing, she must have the respect of that organization.
It's a huge honor.
Yeah,
I'm seriously still in awe that they chose me, and you know I really want to live up to this role.
So let's talk about, and we can talk about a million things that the PRC has done since the 70s,
Yeah.
but I want to find out where the PRC is going, because here you are helming it, and you're going to take it in some different direction.
Right.
So the preservation, it's PRC, the Preservation Resource Center, and people have heard it, people know it exists in
Right.
town, but
Right.
how do you define the PRC?
The PRC works in lots of different ways to preserve New Orleans historic architecture and neighborhoods, and that includes the authenticity of our neighborhoods. What makes them special? The buildings are one thing,
Okay.
and they're very important, and we advocate on every level to save historic buildings.
And you'll have like a library where you can go read about how to save those buildings.
Exactly, and we give people technical assistance, help them understand, hook them up with contractors, and then we literally go to City Hall when we see a building that's being torn down that we think doesn't need to be torn down or could be saved or could be revitalized. We go and we try and save it.
Okay.
And so
And y'all fund it through grants, or how does that?
we have grant funding, and we have major donors who give us gifts and help us keep going.
Okay.
And they're hugely important. And then membership is hugely important. We're a member-based organization, so memberships start at $35, and those dollars help keep our lights on, help us do the work that we do, keeping the city original and authentic. And so, like I said, the authenticity is important to us. The buildings are important, but the people who live inside those buildings, activate them. You know, dream up the culture, do the culture, you know, do their work, live their lives, raise their families inside those buildings. That's what makes those buildings important. It's
Yes.
not just the wood
It's
and the
not-
bricks
it's
that make them important.
It's what's inside.
Exactly.
So at this point, I'll interject my
Yeah,
PRC story.
please.
So I bought one of your Operation Comeback homes. On Triku Street down in the lower 9th Ward, 603. You can pass by. It's the coolest house in the city. That's how I feel about it. Like
That's so great.
you know what I mean?
Oh, that's so great.
It's got a big crepe myrtle tree out front that's been there forever, and I just never. And when you said that, you hit me a little bit, because I felt like when I was, first of all, that house was going to be a tear down. Y'all came in and saved it. So it would not be there if y'all didn't have the grant money to save it.
Right.
And then the funding to save it. You put the house back together, and you were able to sell it at a fair market rate, it was totally new. It was totally insulated.
Yes.
I always say it was based on a real shotgun house. Sometimes I joke about it like that. It's a shotgun house, you know.
Yeah.
But it was so it's got such a cool street presence, that little house, and I really and then I ended up getting married, and we lived in that house, and then we had our son Owen, and we lived in that house,
Yeah.
and we had since sold it and moved on to a bigger house because we've thought about having a larger family, and it was a small house. So selling it was one of the most difficult things we ever had to do. It really was, but it's special. That house is still there today, and it's because of y'all. And when you say the life inside of it, I felt that living in it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like I felt like that house, and this is cheesy, I know, so stay with me. But I feel like that house was so happy with us living in it. It brought it together.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
And it changed the presence on the street.
It does.
Am
It
I
has such
am
an
I being
impact.
cheesy here?
You're not being cheesy, and
Okay.
the ripple effect is real.
Okay.
So when we restore a house, bring it back to life, get homeowners, neighbors living in there,
Yeah.
caring about their neighborhood, it's astounding to see how a month later, as you drive by on that same street, suddenly the neighbor has fixed up their yard. Or someone has bought a nearby house that was also blighted and vacant and is starting to work on it. The ripple effect is real, and when you have one person activating a house,
Yeah, and y'all
suddenly
did
the rest of
4
the neighborhood
houses on
wakes
that
up, too.
block. That
Yes.
and it was all families, it was all kids. We went
Yeah.
over by each other's houses. It was, and that entire block, not the entire block, but just about the entire block was completely blighted because it was on one side by St. Maurice's Church, and y'all
Yes.
did 3, and somebody else was renovating the house when y'all did it. So literally, most of that block went in like when we all went in,
Yes.
and it just changed.
And
it
we
was a
found
different
that
animal.
doing, renovations in scale like that has such a more powerful impact. It's a lot to do one house here and there, around the city. That still makes a difference. But when you're able to get several buildings on one block or in one small area, it can just revitalize a whole area so quickly.
It changed it.
Yeah.
Changed it. It
That's
was
amazing to hear.
So do you? So what? So is that what you're? I mean, are y'all going to be doing more of that? Because I really like that.
We really
I
hope
think that's
so.
great.
We
You
think
know?
it's really important. Now the real estate market has changed.
Uh-huh.
Property's a lot more desirable in neighborhoods that at one point PRC had to go in and fix.
Uh-huh.
It's hard to believe, but Julia Row here in the warehouse district used to be called Skid Row.
Uh-huh.
And PRC
A block away.
Exactly.
Which is
P-
why we're here.
That's
in our
right.
house.
Well, that's exactly right.
Uh-huh.
PRC bought one of the Skid Row buildings, fixed it up, and suddenly the rest of the row revitalized.
Yeah.
It happened on Lower Magazine Street too. People who know this city can't imagine that Magazine Street was ever dilapidated,
I
but
know.
it was.
I know.
Yeah.
I was talking about that with a friend of mine.
Really?
It was like, yeah, my mom wouldn't even let me go to Magazine Street. Now it's
Crazy
like,
to think about. Yeah.
Now look how fancy this place
I
is.
know,
huh?
right? This building is a direct result of all the revitalization happening in this district. So we hope to keep that work moving forward. We've had great success with it so far, but we realize again that New Orleans is hot right now. There's it's actually an affordable housing crisis, and so whereas before we needed to go into neighborhoods that needed help revitalizing. There's not so much of a need for that anymore. There's real estate developers doing that work. What the need is how to keep people in their homes in these neighborhoods where suddenly, property values have doubled, and so have the taxes on the
property
houses.
taxes,
Exactly. So how do these families who have lived in this house for generations keep that generational wealth, stay in their house despite the fact that their taxes have doubled?
Yeah.
We have to figure out ways to keep
And
them
also,
there.
these old houses cost a fortune. You got to drop a ton of money on them every time you turn around. There's some,
Exactly.
so
Right.
like, how
Exactly.
are y'all working on some kind of like programs to help people with
Yeah.
that?
Well,
Because
luckily,
hey, I can go get a new track home somewhere else and it's all
right,
brand new. I don't
exactly. You
have
can
to-
move to a suburb, and
Whereas like it's leaking again. We just fixed this.
right,
Like,
I know,
yeah,
we
yeah.
know, and to not just moving out to the suburbs, but also going to Home Depot or going to a big box construction store, getting lesser made materials perhaps to replace your windows or replace your doors. That's easy to do, and it's way cheaper. We understand that, so we're
But then
gonna.
the HDLC's coming knocking at your door.
That's right. So we have to figure out ways. We're trying to develop tools right now to help homeowners who don't have a lot of money to spend stay in their home, keep it historically appropriate, and not be not suffer for that.
Right.
We want everyone to be able to afford to live.
But y'all are still saving because y'all just saved that place on Claiborne.
We
huh?
did, yeah. So Operation Comeback is still alive and well. We just saved. It's the last remaining building of any of the first 3 historically black colleges in Louisiana.
Okay.
The last building, and it was going to be torn down. And in 2009, we stopped the tear down, saved the building, bought it. It took us years to raise enough money to fix it because it cost us so much money. It's huge. It's a really grand Greek Revival building. But we finally finished it this year. We're really proud. It's on the market right now, actually. We turned it into 3 condos.
Okay.
And it is just gorgeous. Check it out. It's 1423 North Claiborne Avenue, and it's the last remaining building of Straight University.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was a huge deal in Treme. It was a culture-bearing institution for Treme.
So you're still
We're
doing
still
that
doing the work.
Yeah.
And we are doing work to keep people in their homes even as the neighborhoods change around them.
Yeah.
Our Rebuilding Together program has provided free home repairs for over 1,500 low-income homeowners throughout the city. And that's huge. It's
Right.
huge for us. We prioritize elderly homeowners, veterans, single heads of household who don't have the money to fix up their roof if it's leaking, replace their siding if it's rotting or has termites. Unfortunately, we find elderly people who can't get out of their house because they're wheelchair bound and they don't have a wheelchair ramp.
Yeah.
So we go in and we do these fixes for them, help them age in place safely, keep them in their home that they've lived in for years, that they raised their families in. It's so important to us.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So preservation is much more than the keeping my wooden windows intact. Huh?
It is, and it's much more than a field or a passion for just rich Anglo-Saxon people.
Yeah.
And that's the reputation that we get, and we have to actively work to change that because it's just not true.
Yeah. No, I mean, and you've sold a lot of houses in Holy Cross, and you've got that new community center in there, and it's a whole different. It's a whole different animal. The reality is everyone wants nice homes. I know we've had so many people, and St. Rock has gotten such a backlash for gentrification, but we have had so many people from the neighborhood that come get coffee from us.
So good to hear.
Older black families, and they're like, the dude will come with tears in his eyes, and he's like, man, I worked my entire life to pay my house off, and now I get to leave my kids real wealth.
This is generational wealth, and revitalizing neighborhoods contributes directly to that.
Yes.
We just have to make sure that people aren't displaced in the meantime.
Yeah.
We care passionately about that. Gentrification is good when gentrification just means revitalization.
Yeah.
But when it includes displacement, that's when there's a problem, and we have to be fighting against that.
And the city ought to be working with some, because again, our property tax has doubled, and I was telling my wife, I'm like, ooh, man, I hope it doesn't double again. We're gonna be out of here.
Right.
And she's like, well, it's not gonna double again. I'm like,
You don't know.
I said, Ashley, it doubled once.
Yeah.
Hello, it just doubled on us.
Yeah.
It could double again.
I will say that I think that right now the real estate market here is
it's starting
inflated,
to cool,
and it's starting to cool down.
Yeah.
And so that's a good thing. That's a good and bad thing.
Yeah.
But I really do believe it was artificially inflated, and has been, especially because of short-term rental
Short-term
properties.
rentals. Okay.
So
You can get on that. So we can get on
I know
that soapbox.
that's another huge
That's another
issue,
whole
and it
episode.
might change. The new city council's coming in; they're going to have opinions of their own about it. So who knows where we'll be in even 6 months' time?
Right.
But the real estate market here is slowing down, and so I don't think it's going to double anytime soon.
Yeah,
So.
but I'm worried. It
Yeah.
still worries. It's still worrisome.
It is worrisome.
But
yeah.
what I'm saying is, I think the city ought to have some kind of if you just bought it at this inflated rate, well
Right.
then
Right.
you need to pay the taxes on that. But
Right.
there maybe can be something. We can only raise it so much over a certain period of time. Why is that not a thing?
Exactly. I don't know that the city's ever had to deal with that before.
Yeah.
And they do have tax abatements for elderly homeowners.
Yeah.
But why can't we also have tax abatements for low-income homeowners? Or like you said, why can't we study this as a whole for everyone?
You just say, hey, if you've been living in your house forever, and this is your tax rate, does it go up over time? I mean,
Right. Exactly.
everything goes up over time.
Yeah,
It's
it does.
amazing what I charge for coffee here. Everything's expensive. I don't
Well, this
know
place is nice, Kevin. You have to afford it.
Yeah, I got it right. But and Jordan's expensive too back there. So, but how does it? But that's great that y'all are doing that. That y'all are doing that, and I think that's huge. I mean, people need to live in the neighborhoods, and yes, the short-term rental thing, I've been pretty hard against. It certainly hurts homeowners.
Yeah,
I think,
it does.
and hurts neighborhoods. And if I'm raising my son on the in Bywater, and we're just living in the middle of a hotel, how cool is that?
And I will make the caveat that we're not against people renting out half of their shotgun, for example, and using that half as an Airbnb because there's accountability.
Yeah.
If a person comes in to stay in that half of that shotgun double and they're raucous and they create a huge mess outside, you're living on the other side, and so you're going to be able to stop it.
Right.
What bothers us is when there's a whole house Airbnb. The owners live out of state.
Yeah.
There's a bachelor party that comes in, causes a huge amount of noise, trashes the property, and leaves. There's no one for the neighbors to call, right? Because no one cares.
Nobody cares.
The property owner lives out of state.
And from a preservation standpoint, just going back to what you were talking about too, from a preservation of the neighborhood standpoint. So, okay, well, we're living in this hotel, whatever. But like 50 years from now, who's going to want to come to New Orleans and see this? This whole neighborhood has been a hotel for the past 50 years.
That's exactly right. So
You
there's
know?
this saying, if you build it for locals, the tourists will come.
I agree with
If you
that.
build it with tourists,
I agree with
the
that.
locals will leave and the tourists won't even come.
We've-
Because it's Disneyland at that point.
I agree with you.
Yes.
I am there. I am at St. Rock most mornings shooting the breeze with locals and it's turned into a big old yacht paradise. and it's and then the tourists find us. You know what I mean?
Exactly, and they love it
And
because
they love
it's real.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're
That's what they're
worried
here
about
to
the
see.
French Quarter for that exact reason,
Yeah.
right? The French Quarter's properties have become so expensive.
And we have a
that-
lot of people who come to have coffee in the morning over at St. Rock that grew up in the quarter, and they went to Cafe Du Monde every morning.
Wow.
And they're like, I'm
Oh.
as kids, and they're like, we're trying to find the next thing because we can't go there.
Right.
Like, there's no local people
Right.
there. So they end up at St. Rock, and I'm glad of it.
That's great, yeah.
But they love it, and but again, and then of course we see a lot of tourists at St. Rock. I can't
No,
sit here
and
and say we
tourism
don't.
is great. That's our number one industry here. But in order to keep it our number one industry, we have to keep our neighborhoods authentic.
Yes.
Otherwise, people don't want to visit.
And that's your job.
That's
your
our
new
job.
job. That's your new
our
job.
new job.
That's your new job.
Don't judge me yet. I just started.
Danielle, thank you so much for coming to have
Oh, this
coffee
was
with
such a
me. I am
pleasure.
so glad you came.
Yeah, me
and
too.
I'm like I said, definitely an advocate for PRC. We'll have links below. You can
Great.
get involved and all that stuff.
Great.
And
Become a member.
Become a member.
Yes.
Okay, become a member.
All right.
That's
Thank
the
you,
thing.
Kevin.
Thank you so much. Take
All right.
care.
You too.